So if you've been watching my other videos, you'll know that my solar system is now all installed, and I went for mainly SolarEdge products. And one of the reasons for that, apart from kind of quality and efficiency and good support, is the kind of ecosystem that enables you to monitor and visualize the performance. So in this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about that monitoring ecosystem. Okay, so I can't comment specifically on how the SolarEdge system compares to other manufacturers or other vendors, because obviously I haven't had much use of them. But I did do some research and kind of try to compare and contrast what SolarEdge looked like compared to others. And personally, I think that the SolarEdge system is leaps and bounds ahead of the other providers. There's a couple of little niggly bits that I'm not too keen on. So I'll mention those first just to kind of get it out of the way, and then we move on to the awesomeness. So really there's kind of two things that are not deal breakers. They're just, I guess, part of the nature of how this stuff works. But I'm not, fully, I guess, understanding why it's a necessity. But so they're both linked. The first one is the fact that the SolarEdge system is linked to the installer versus linked to the customer. So what I mean by that is, if you have a SolarEdge product installed as part of your solar design, the SolarEdge appliances are linked into the installer's account, and then it is a requirement that installer and SolarEdge then give you access to view and monitor your equipment. So I think that's kind of backwards. I think that as the customer who's paid for and purchased the service, it should be the other way around. So I should have full access to this system, and I then give ability back to the installer to be able to do monitoring or whatever. Now, I understand that obviously when the system is being designed and installed, that they may have ownership initially and then transfer it over, because they should be obviously populating the system with all the right products and what the strings look like and everything like that. But then once that's done and commissioned, really your business with that solar installer has ceased. Now the argument is, I think, that the system allows the installer to do active monitoring. So if you've got some issues with the panel or optimizer or what have you, they can be proactive in remediating it. We'll see in the future if that ever happens and what that really means. But and then the second thing related to that is, obviously, because it's a cloud-based solution, if SolarEdge ever goes away, I don't know what that means for the monitoring. I assume it will stop working unless someone brings up a third-party application. And it also means there's a bit of latency in the monitoring solution. So it's not real time, it's near real time, at least from my experience. I know other people have had some delays, but in general mine is kind of like a second or so out when I'm comparing it to other devices that are more real time. So again, not the end of the world, just things to be aware of. So you need to have your inverter connected to the internet, and we'll talk a little bit about the infrastructure and what I have as part of this video towards the end. So let's kind of talk about the options. So basically there is a web interface that you can go to, which is on the monitoring.solaredge.com website, and I'll show you that in a moment. This is really the best place to go because you can see everything in a lot more detail, access reports and charts and everything, and alerts and all that sort of thing. So it works really, really well. I will censor out some information that is private, but you'll get the general idea. Then there's also mobile apps. So there's an Android app and there is an iOS app. I tried out the Android app because I still am trying to find a good solution for in the house, to have like something permanently on the wall or something. So I had an old Kindle laying around, so I installed the app on that. To be perfectly honest, the Android app is terrible. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. But the iOS app really works quite well, and I'll show you that on the screen as well, and so you can see how that works. But again, the iOS app works really well, and the main app on the website works really well as well. So let's log into this and show you guys what I'm seeing. So again, the inverter I have is a HD Wave 6000 inverter. I have the optional wireless connector connected to that device, as well as an Ethernet connector as well. So I have basically some resilience in that. So let's show you how this connects up, and then we can take it from there. Okay, so once you've logged in to the SolarEdge monitoring screen, the basic main page that you're presented with is a dashboard overview. So it's showing you the current energy today, the energy this month, and the lifetime energy. So obviously the lifetime energy is constantly accruing since the install date occurred, and then energy this month is obviously energy this month and energy today. All these things are quite obvious. Then in the second area, you're seeing the near real-time statistics. So right now, the system, it's really cloudy and windy here in the UK right now, hence this number kind of moving all over the place. So right at this specific second, it's 3.32. Clouds are moving, I don't know if you can hear the wind, 2.55. All this stuff is moving up and down. Then this is my current real-time or near real-time usage in the house. So as you guys know, if you watch the channel, I'm based at home, got various computers and systems running. So there's slight fluctuations in the power. So your fridges are coming on, off, etc. But this is in general the power consumption of the house. And then this is showing the surplus. And I can talk in other videos if you're interested. Obviously I've got the Powerwall 2 should be coming next month. I've got a My Energy Eddy that is diverting surplus to hot water and all this sort of stuff. But you can see here in general kind of what's happening. On the right hand side, I've blurred out some of this stuff, but basically the site summary, it's just got information about your house, your address, when it was installed, what your peak power is and all this sort of thing. And then as we move down, it's got like a forecast based on your location of weather for the current day and the two forthcoming days. So just allows you to get a bit more information. If we scroll down, then we start to see more granular detail in terms of chart forms and graphs. So this is a bit I really enjoy looking at if you're interested in data. So by default, it has the monthly information and the consumption. So you can see right now in terms of my system production so far this month, and we won't go into too much detail because I'm doing monthly updates here, but you can see real easily that I'm consuming 62% of what I generate, 38% of it is exported right now. I hope that's going to reduce significantly when I get the Powerwall, and I'm kind of 60% self-sufficient. I'm still having to import 40% of my electricity for this month. Then you can see the graph. So green shows you solar production, so you can easily see over the month where this is going up and down. Then red is obviously my consumption, and blue is self-consumption, so what I've not had to pull from the grid. So it makes it really quite simple. Personally, I prefer looking at the day-by-day statistics. So you can see here kind of where we are so far in the day. So obviously my peak is never going to be more than 6 kilowatts. And so just to clarify that again, if you've not seen the other videos, I have a 9 kilowatt system, but the inverter is 6 kilowatts. So I can never produce more than 6 kilowatts usable energy. So there is a bit of clipping and wastage in the super good months. But what it should really mean with a larger array, there's more chances that more often I will be peaking at 6 kilowatts versus like 4 kilowatts or something. But anyway, so with the daily chart, you can see very clearly kind of at 15-minute intervals what the electricity usage has been like. Then obviously when the solar has started to generate something, and kind of what my usage is. So we can talk about this in a bit more detail in some of these other daily reports where you'll see, and also cover this off in a separate video I'm doing for the My Energy Eddy product. But you can really see kind of ideally when you're generating solar, you don't really want to be pulling anything from the grid. So if I look at like the previous day, you can see that my energy usage as the solar generation increases, this blue consumption piece, it's very difficult with that in the way, very neatly follows along. And that is because as my solar is peaking, that surplus power is being pushed into the eddy. So instead of exporting, I'm heating hot water until it obviously reaches a threshold and it kind of drops down. Now the weather was pretty bad yesterday, which is why you can see only a short peak, and it slowly tapers off. And you can see like the spikes when we don't use gas for cooking, we use electricity, so you can see the spikes kind of around mealtime at like 5:30 when food is starting to be cooked. If I move back to a better generation day, so here you can see more closely where the consumption and the production is very closely aligned. You can see little spats of red. This is because there's obviously a bit of delay, like in the eddy as it's diverting power to hot water, in terms of it kind of going, am I pulling from the grid? No. Am I pulling from the grid? No. Am I pulling from the grid? Yes. Okay, stop or reduce. But you really want this tracking as closely as possible. So it really starts to give you a better understanding of kind of what you're using and how you're using it. And when I get the Powerwall installed, one of the things I'm going to do a bit more analysis of is what else can I do to reduce the power consumption outside of waking hours. So if you see here, I'm assuming these little spikes are based on fridges turning on. So we've got 3 fridges altogether, and so I'm assuming this is kind of kicking in here. So we're using around 450 kilowatts as like a baseline electricity usage throughout the night, and so I want to understand if there's any way of us reducing that. So obviously I've got servers and stuff that are running 24/7, which will be accounting for a portion of that. But is that 450 the most feasible number, or can we get things lower? And so obviously this analysis enables you to do that in a lot more detail. So I know you might be saying, hey, I have something similar because I have an OWL, and the OWL product or whatever energy meter you're using is giving you some of this data. And I agree, the OWL information is very useful. However, I believe that the SolarEdge system is much more accurate. So the reason for that is similar to the OWL and the My Energy products, they are powering the CT clamp and the device through that residual energy that's coming through the cable. So they're kind of self-powered. And that's great for flexibility and being able to just kind of install something wherever you like. But I do believe it impacts a little bit accuracy. And so with this solution, you have what's called a Modbus meter, and that is installed in your wiring cabinet, in your electricity cabinet, and that is powered by its own power source. And SolarEdge are very specific about that device and the CT clamp being done locally and where you extend the cable. So they like the CT clamp to be local, and you can extend the cable back to the inverter. They don't like it to have the Modbus meter near the inverter and then the CT clamp extended. I guess that's to minimize noise and disruption over that line from the CT clamp. And their CT clamps look more robust and more, I guess, credible. There's something about it that speaks to it being more quality and more accurate device. And I believe, from what I'm seeing so far, with some analysis I've been doing, that to be the case. So just looking at this again a little bit more on this main screen, there's a little bit of environmental information on the side about how many CO2 emissions you saved and how many trees you're planting and all that sort of thing. And then we have this comparative energy. So obviously over time, this would be helpful, I guess, to spot both performance but also any degradation. So if things are going wrong or panels aren't working so well, you can kind of check if your energy production is reflective of previous years. And obviously over time, the panels are going to degrade. And so you expect to see some degradation in the performance, but you're looking for any outlier things. An important thing about the SolarEdge products is the warranties. So to have this system working, we have a few things in place. We have obviously the panels. On the back of those are the SolarEdge optimizers. I believe, I put some clarifying notes below if it's not right. They come with a 25-year warranty. Not sure on the Modbus, but it's about £100 or something, I think. So not the end of the world, but again, it's not a moving part. That should be pretty reliable. And then the inverter itself, I believe, comes with, I think it's like a 12-year warranty, which is really significant compared to others in the industry. But you can extend that for up to 20 or 25 years. And I plan to do that, to extend mine up to 25 years. And you can do that any time in between, obviously, it first being installed and 2 years later. So I'm going to see how things go over the first year and probably make a note after kind of 12, 18 months to increase the warranty to the full 25 years. So just keep you aware of that. Some of this information, if for some reason you don't like to use the app, or it's not, you're not going to have your installation connected to the internet. I'm not sure if that's a prerequisite or not, but you can also see this information on the main panel of the inverter as well. Obviously not in any much detail as you have here, but you can get a general idea of what your real-time generation is, what your input, what you're kind of pulling from the grid, and what you're exporting. So it's pretty good. The other things that are quite cool is if we go into layout, you can see the physical layout of your solar array, and so each of these panels, what they've generated so far in the day. So this isn't a real-time statistic of currently they are generating this amount of power. This is about how much power each panel has generated so far. So there will be some slight variance based on shading and, you know, if you've got bird poo on there or what have you. But again, it's another place where you can see kind of how things are performing. So for me, for example, I know that if I use the reference numbers, 1.17 or 1.15 or 1.12, they tend to be a little bit shaded in the morning, which is why there is a slightly less power output from those ones. This one that is at 1.16, that seems to be significantly lower than the other ones. It's not super low, so this could account for some cloud shading. Also, I think when I looked out the window this morning, once again, a bird has done a mega crap on the panel, so that may account to some of it. So it'd be on my mind at some point to clear those things off. You can also switch it from physical layout to logical layout, and this will show the strings. So basically how they are connected up into the inverter. And if you go back to the physical layout, 'cause it's much more pleasing on the eye, this is where you can see if it's 1.2, it's in the second string. If it's in 1.1, it's the first string. So this isn't something that you need to have done. It doesn't change how the system performs or how things are balanced. It's really much more for troubleshooting. So if there's an impact on the system, it's easier to identify is it in string 1 or string 2. When the system is being installed, each one of the inverters has a little QR code on the back, and so you're looking for your installer basically to remove each of those QR code stickers and stick it on a template that shows the order that this is going into. So then when it's mapped into this design, this is exactly laid out how it should be. I've checked it myself. These are in the right order, so in the future, trying to do any troubleshooting should be relatively straightforward. A couple of other things that are quite cool about this. If you click, let's see where that is there. If you click on one of the devices, you can get more information. So you can get information on the serial number of the device, the panel manufacturer, the model. Obviously all this is input by the installer. The optimizer doesn't know itself what panel it is. It's been told what panel it is, but you're getting more information about the panel, which is helpful for troubleshooting. And also, if you just do a mouse over, you can again see a bit of information about what it believes the orientation is, the tilt and the azimuth, etc. So it's pretty good. Then we move on to the charts. I don't have Flash installed on this machine, but you can start to see more and more information about each module, looking into how much current they've been generating, how much energy, how much power. So there's really loads of stuff that you can do here. Then you can go into different reports. So if you're obviously trying to generate certain statistics and things, it gives you the ability to be able to pull this out into a spreadsheet. And also you can create your own reports and documents from all this as well. So again, pretty straightforward. Not kind of too much to talk about, but it does help you in terms of statistics and everything. And then there's a section here on alerts. So if there's any alerts that have been generated, again, this will help with troubleshooting. So I think this is really cool. I really love the fact that I can see this stuff real time and kind of see what's happening both with my solar system as well as my energy consumption in the house, and use it with other products as well. If I quickly plug in the app, let me just grab my cable, then you'll be able to see pretty much the same information to some extent on the app. So let me just plug it in so you guys can see. Okay, so then in we come. So again, I'm going to blur out some of the stuff that's semi-revealing, but you can see in the app a couple of things. So at the top, we've got the fact that it's a 9 kilowatt array. You can see the current outside temperature is believed to be around 19 degrees centigrade. And then similar to the desktop app, we can see current generation, current usage, and current export. So as mentioned, you know, the weather is fluctuating quite a lot. I've actually just started some 3D printing, which is also why the energy consumption is varying a little bit as the hot plates and everything is heating up and cooling down. You can generally see the very similar kind of information we could see in the desktop app. If we scroll down, we can still see these lovely graphs that I mentioned before that I like a lot. So already, again, we can see it by the day. We can move back to previous days, look at things by week and by month and year. So that's already good. And again, we can see the comparative information. We can't really do much in terms of reporting, etc. here, but we can look at the physical layout like we can on the desktop app. We can zoom in and zoom out of that. Also change to the logical layout and zoom in and zoom out. So yeah, it's really good. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think it works really well. And I like the fact, obviously, again, like I said, on the iOS app, things, it just works, right? So you know where you are with it. If I can find one, I'll put a quick overlay of the picture from the Android app just to show a comparison. But I think, unfortunately, for those of you that are Android users, I would stick with the desktop app. So that's pretty much it. What we'll do is quickly pop downstairs to finish the video off and show you the display on the inverter itself, so you can see the kind of information you get in there. And then I think you're pretty much ready to can't get my words out, wrap up this video. Okay, so as we're popping outside, I thought I'd just kind of show you the Modbus and just remind again about the panel. So again, apologies for the wind, it's really windy. So each of the panels on the roof have that optimizer plugged in the bottom. So that, like I said, that's one of the key things in enabling the both optimization of the panels, but also that real-time or near real-time communication back to the inverter as to what each panel is doing. So again, that's one of the things I love about the SolarEdge. And if you live somewhere that has severe shading, they kind of really stand on their own in terms of maximizing the performance. Okay, and in here, so this is the CT clamp that I spoke about. So if you compare this like to the hour one, the hour ones aren't directional, whereas these ones are, and just look generally a bit more sturdy.
And then here is the Modbus meter. So there's a green flashing light here for communication, so that shows that it's communicating back to the inverter itself. This supports up to 3-phase. In the UK it's most common we have single phase at a residential location, and you can see the status light is flashing red. It flashes red when you are exporting, and it will flash green when you're importing. So obviously we're generating a surplus right now, which is why it's flashing red, and then in the evening as we start to pull from the grid it will flash green again. So let's just quickly pop and look at the inverter and wrap things up. Okay, so here's the inverter. So one of the really cool things about this is when it stops producing DC power, so when it gets dark, it goes into a night mode to power save. So it's consuming the minimal amount of electricity, so again helping you reduce the cost of your energy bills, which is really cool. Then you have this touch sensitive buttons. To be honest, that's the one thing I don't like about this, the fact that it's kind of light sensitive. I don't know exactly how it works, but sometimes you have to push quite firmly on it. But if we move closer, you can see the real-time information. So as mentioned upstairs, it's quite erratic because of the variance, but you can see here, this is the real-time generation. This is the DC being generated off the panels, etc. This shows us that we have 30 out of 30 optimizers all communicating okay. If we go through the different screens, we can see here how much we generated so far today, so much for the month, so much for the year, and the total. So again, these are the things that you can see in the app, but you can also see here if you want to. Like I said, we've got Wi-Fi, so we've got this external Wi-Fi connection here, and then this red cable is Ethernet that I got wired back to a switch. So that's all working fine. Again, another version of showing kind of the maximum power limit and the current power production. So if, for example, for some reason you had a 6 kilowatt inverter but you were limited to how much you could export, you can set this in the software to only export like 3 kilowatts or whatever. And that Modbus meter, there is also another version of that that can also support limiting, so it's quite cool. And here we can see kind of how much we're currently exporting and how much we're importing, obviously, which is 0 right now because we're generating a surplus. So yeah, that's it. This SolarEdge stuff, I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. If you're thinking about solar, I definitely recommend you check out SolarEdge. Obviously speak to your installer, see if they support it. I think, as I said in some other videos, I think one of the most important things is that you have something installed that the supplier is competent and has experience of. But if your supplier can, or you can find a supplier you're happy with, then definitely consider the SolarEdge stuff. I'm really liking it. Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.